Hi, my name is Abby Parambo, and today I wanted to talk about technology, globalization, and especially electronic waste and what we can do about it. I am a senior digital forensics major. I have a minor in POLISCI and criminal justice, and I chose this topic because I actually wrote a speech on it for a speech and debate team, and I thought that the topic was also relevant to this class. So technology is everywhere. In Thomas Friedman's talk about the globalization of higher education, he starts off with talking about the prevalence of technology. He argues that the IT revolution is the most significant event of the 21st century, which, when you think of all the things that have happened, that's, pretty significant, and has made the world seem almost flat, meaning that technology has altered reality to make distance almost irrelevant. The globalization of technology has given the world many opportunities to connect, obtain information, and much more. The problem is, these devices that we own oftentimes do not last very long due to upgrades and new capabilities. As a result, we end up throwing many of our devices away, which contributes to the increasing volume of electronic waste. The second bullet point was released by the United Nations in 2014, saying that there are as many cell phone subscriptions as there are people on this earth, which, is a lot. The graph highlights this statement, showing that ownership of mobile phones, especially, has gone up dramatically in the past couple of years. And we all know how often we replace these and contribute to the problem. The third bullet point, the average U.S. household spends about over $1,000 on consumer electronics per year, which is something that we don't really realize that we do spend this much. The data is coming from the Consumer Electronics Association in 2012. Okay, so here's a little bit about electronic waste that people might not know. First of all, it's kind of a mouthful, so people typically just call it e-waste, and there is a lot of it. It's the fastest growing category of waste in the U.S. and around the world. The UNEP, which stands for the United Nations Environmental Protection Agency, states that 41 million tons of e-waste are disposed worldwide every year, and the projected volume of e-waste is expected to grow to 50 million disposed tons. And this can also be highlighted by the fact that we have so many electronic devices nowadays, which I emphasized on the previous slide. And most electronic waste is toxic. There is fluids that go in there that, like when you take it apart, it can actually cause problems such as lead going into the bloodstream, which is something we'll talk about later on. The graph here that I'm showing is from the The graph that I'm showing is by the Environmental Protection Agency, and it shows two things. One, that the U.S. alone throws away over 3 million tons of electronic devices per year, and two, that only 40% of it is recycled. So we can definitely do better. So the current status quo is this. And I'm going to quote Brett H. Robinson, who is a part of the Department of Soil and Physical Science at Lincoln University. He states, although illegal under the Basel Convention, rich countries export an unknown quantity of e-waste to poor countries, where recycling techniques include burning and dissolution in strong acids, with few measures to protect human health and the environment. In 2015, up to 90% of e-waste is illegally traded or dumped each year, and that is also from the UNEP. So even though that there are standards in place to keep this from happening, people typically don't follow it. One of the places that the disposal of electronic waste has gotten so bad is in Guiyu, which is in China. And typically, developing countries such as China, India, maybe some countries in Africa are places where the rich countries will dump off the e-waste to these poor developing countries. But Guiyu especially has hit international news. It's also known as the electronic graveyard of the world. It dismantles 1.5 million pounds of e-waste per year. So basically their whole town, as far as jobs go, is basically dismantling this e-waste for precious metals. There are small family-run workshops which, if they're dismantling these electronic devices that also contain lead, then they could also be harming their children if they're not putting good practices to protect them from lead poisoning, which they typically don't, because again, it is a poor developing country that the e-waste is being shipped off to. The last two bullet points were taken from a study done by the Shantou University Medical College. So it says that they have the highest level of cancer-causing dioxins in the world, and that children tested had high levels of lead in their bloodstream. So as you can see, people typically, when they mine the e-waste for precious metals, don't take precautionary methods to protect themselves, to protect their kids, and to protect the environment, which is a problem. I have some pictures that I wanted to show. These pictures were taken in 2013. Time magazine went to Guiyu to investigate how bad the situation has gotten. The following photos I'm going to show you on the next couple of slides are taken by Chen Min Chung and are published by Time magazine. So as you can see in these photos, the first one on the upper left, we could see just how bad this has gotten. I mean, there's just mounds of electronic devices, and this is just keyboards alone in that picture. The picture on the bottom right is it's some sort of stream that is heavily polluted, heavily contaminated, and this may or may not be a source of drinking water for these people. So obviously, this has gotten very bad. The picture on the bottom left shows a little bit of a workshop, and really the only precautionary thing that they're doing to protect themselves, to protect their children, is wearing gloves. As you can see, they're just burning it. That pollution can go into the air and go into a child's respiratory system. And again, these are just two pictures of how bad it's actually gotten and how they make a profit off of this by dismantling it and selling it, but it comes at the cost of their lifestyle and their health. So what can we as an international community and just as people do to help this problem since it's gotten this bad? So the first thing that we could do is pressure IGOs, which are international government organizations, to prioritize the agenda that protects the environment. So we can pressure the US, the United Nations, the EU. This really falls upon us now. We entered the age where non-state actors are the main ones calling for change. So it's really up to us to try to get a big community to help stop this problem if we care about it more. We can demand more from phone manufacturers. So again, this is something I'm going to talk about on the next slide, but we can essentially demand that phone manufacturers make phones that last longer, that are more environmentally friendly, so that they're not thrown away so easily. And I say phone manufacturers, but this can also apply to laptops, computers, really any technology that is typically disposed of really quickly. We can allocate government money to phone and tech companies such as Google to work on environmentally friendly technology. Again, this is something I'm going to talk about on the next slide. We can enforce existing laws more strictly, or we can create new laws. Like I said, there is this thing called the Basel Convention that prohibits this behavior, but obviously people aren't following it. They don't care. We can, again, enforce these laws, or if obviously they're not working, maybe even create new laws surrounding this. We can utilize technology for longer periods of time. The whole reason why this volume of waste has gotten so bad and piled up so much is because we throw away our technology super fast. So if we do utilize our phones or our laptops or our computers longer, then they won't have to be sitting in Guiu or any other developing country around the world just because we don't want them anymore. And obviously, we can do our best to recycle. So this next solution might be a little bit too idealistic, but I truly believe that this is the way technology is heading. This invention here is called phone blocks, and it was created by Dave Hackins. The phone is made of multiple detachable modules called blocks. Say you want a better camera for your phone. With phone blocks, all you would have to do is take out the camera block and replace it with a new updated block. This allows for the rest of the phone to stay intact while you update the components that you desire. This project specifically targets cell phone contribution to e-waste, but there are also designs for computers and laptops to be in this picture. This started off as just an idea, but thanks to the large phone blocks community, they actually got Google to get started on a similar design in which they called Aura. Unfortunately, the other day, I saw that they suspended the development on Aura further due to budget and innovation issues, which could possibly be solved by, again, allocating money that I talked about on the previous slide. This is the type of change that needs to happen, and it needs to come from non-state actors such as the phone blocks community, Google, or any other organization for that matter. So again, even though this is specifically highlighting cell phones, it's a cool idea, it's very futuristic, and this is basically the direction that tech companies need to be heading towards to help solve this e-waste problem. And just keep in mind what we're doing to the environment with every new innovation that we make for cell phones. And I also made the Phone Blocks website big so that if anyone wants to go to their website and check out all the cool ideas that they have and be a part of this community, I highly, highly recommend it. That's all. Thank you for listening, and I hope everyone has a good day.